Hey everyone, welcome to the Predicted Weekly Markets Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Studwell. Garth Jacob is actually out this week, so I'm going to do a quick solo roundup of the news. Lots of things happening. We'll start today with President Trump will be making a, quote, major announcement with War Secretary Hegseth, Navy Secretary Phelan today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, presumably on escalating Venezuela's operations as they've been seizing more and more oil tankers. Trump will have to thread this needle and look for further action that won't need congressional approval and won't inflame an already skeptical Congress. Predicted has one related market. Will the Senate vote to restrict use of force on Venezuela by February 27th? This was voted down once already. I could see this being a priority in the new legislative session next year if President escalates operations. It's a solid buy at 30 cents, but we'll see where that goes from there. Over to state-specific news. Elise Stefanik drops out of the New York Gubernatorial Race. Very surprising there. Stefanik had a great chance to win that primary over Bruce Blakeman. It seems like Trump was going to endorse Blakeman over Stefanik, and she didn't want to go through this entire primary process when Hochul was probably going to win that general anyway. Cook Political Reports moved it from a lean Dem to a solid Democratic win. We have three related markets. Got the Republican gubernatorial nomination. Blakeman is sitting at 89 cents. Great buy. Blakeman's already been endorsed by Trump, going to win there. Then we have Hochul on the Democratic side, sitting governor, actually at 88 cents. Both buys are great. And then we also have the party winner. Democrats are sitting at 89 cents. So they're all pretty much the same price. Genuinely, that is as easy a 10 cents as you could make. So I think all three markets are aligned and they all make sense there. Then we have over to Maine. Susan Collins is actually yet to announce that she is running for re-election in Maine. Her past announcement in 2019 was on December 19th, so we're past that. She has until March 15th to file. So it really begs the question, is Susan Collins going to run? Right now, we have two related markets: which party will win the 2026 U.S. Senate election in Maine, and then also who will win the Republican Senate nomination. Collins' no contract is at 17 cents. It's a little pricey. I would track that as we approach that March 15th deadline. The price doesn't rise as we approach that date. I would think it was a better buy. 17 cents is probably better if we're in the middle of February and she still doesn't announce her reelection. Then we see the Democrats sitting at 63 cents to win that Senate seat. I'd hold on that market. Nothing crazy there. We still don't know who will be the nominee, Graham Plattner or Janet Mills on the Democratic side. Over to national news, we have TPUSA or Turning Point USA's America Fest was this past weekend. Some major headlines were Ben Shapiro and Rob Schneider, continuing the feud with Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes. And then we also had J.D. Vance giving a very presumptive nominee-like speech. Yesterday, we saw another headline coming out that TPUSA attendees are predicting that Josh Shapiro, as well as potentially Gavin Newsom, will be the 2028 Democratic nominees for president. Solid choices, I guess, in terms of, Josh Shapiro sitting at 8 cents, Gavin Newsom sitting at 35 cents, and is clearly the front runner. I think it'll be interesting which lanes each of them fill. We'll probably have Gavin Newsom, who is very much the Trump agitator pick there. Then we have the very leftist lane, probably filled by AOC or another pick. We also have, again, Josh Shapiro or Andy Bashir, something like that. Maybe Pete Buttigieg filling the practical, I know how to get things done, abundance type liberal. And, we still have yet to see the machinations of each lane and who's actually going to be running. AOC actually teased that she'll be running in a tweet about a poll that she was beating J.D. Vance in a head-to-head by 2 points. So always fun there, but AOC loves to get on Twitter and talk some ish. And then we also have Washington Post this morning said that Ted Cruz is mulling a run for president. I have to say, obviously, Ted Cruz is going to be run for president. It's the same thing as Kamala Harris. It's once you've run once, it's hard to kind of back off and then run again. So if you still have that ambition to become president, you're going to continue to try to run for president, Biden's history, right? And then we have Ro Khanna, who's been in the news a lot just because was the co-sponsor with Thomas Massie on the Epstein files bill. Epstein files were released on Friday, not in full. There were also some images that were released and then pulled back after a bit. So Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie are actually writing, it's unclear if it's articles of impeachment for Pam Bondi or if it's an official reprimand. But again, staying in the news there because, unhappy that they didn't release all of the files when it was congressionally mandated to do so. And we also had a headline that Ro Khanna has actually made the most podcast appearances with 74 compared to the next highest, which is Chris Murphy or Pete Buttigieg, both with 35, Rahm Emanuel with 32. So you have some of those more TV and radio people like Rahm Emanuel who are not even coming close to Ro Khanna's numbers. Ro Khanna really taking that internet Andrew Yang lane here, not in our current 2028 Democratic nominee market yet, but I would see once the field expands a little bit and it's clear who is officially running for president, which will probably be announced right after the 2026 midterms. He will be added there. Then we had a lot of interesting pieces on the Republican side. Again, Erica Kirk already endorsed J.D. Vance for the 2028 nomination. We saw that about a week ago, and then we actually saw some contrasting points of view. Kayleigh McEnany, Trump's first press secretary. I shouldn't say first. It's more of one of many in the first Trump administration in 2020. Urges the GOP to seek competitive primary in 2028. Quote, it makes you tougher. Basically warning against the Kamala Harris problem, if you will, in 2024, which was interesting because the Democrats decided officially, or the DNC decided officially, to not release the autopsy report, as it's called, on why Kamala Harris lost, which was a choice. And then we had Senator Rand Paul on the Sunday morning news shows basically saying, this is a quote, I'm going to continue to try to lead a conservative free market wing of the party. The moderator said, and that's not J.D. Vance, ? And he said no. So making it very clear that Rand Paul is looking for another option. I think Rand Paul and Ted Cruz might match up very, very well. I wrote a column on why Ted Cruz is an amazing buy at currently 2 cents in the Republican nomination. We saw J.D. Vance drop like a cent or two. I do think J.D. Vance is going to have a similar problem to Kamala Harris. If economic worries and fears and a recession creeps in further, it's going to be hard for J.D. Vance to distance himself from the Trump administration, from the administration that he is the vice president of. That was the same issue that Kamala Harris had with inflation. Couldn't really get away from the inflationary issues of the Biden administration. Wasn't willing to make a clear difference between what she was promising for the country and what Biden provided for the country. And I do see that happening to J.D. Vance. So I think that 50-cent cost of J.D. Vance to be the Republican nominee in 2028 is frankly pretty crazy, just because when you look at all the polling and when you look at the generic ballot for 2026 congressional nominees or congressional candidates, I should say. Democrats are leading on average by about 4 points. We dug into some crosstabs of some other polls, and we saw Hispanics shifting away from Trump compared to February to now, basically by 40 points. We saw independents are favoring the Democrats by 11 points. Across the the board, everyone is kind of shifting away from that Republican Party, and it's hard to kind of sell a winner if you're J.D. Vance. If that continues, if Democrats take the House in 2026, if the Senate has an even slimmer margin, or maybe the Democrats could even take the Senate in 2026, and then there's not too much for the Trump administration to do, even with the House taken by the Democrats. Just one piece of the puzzle is in the Democrats' favor. I don't think Trump's going to have all that much wiggle room to get things done. I assume he might take up some more executive actions, see Venezuela again, and we kind of come back to the beginning. So that's the news roundup for today. I think lots of interesting pieces as we end the year. We'll actually be off next week, so catch us in 2026. We're going to be announcing a huge competition between myself and Garth in terms of Predict It, and we're going to be buying all the markets and the contracts that we're looking to make money on, and we'll check in every month or so to see who's winning there. And we'll also be previewing the entire primary schedule. So we'll take a look at March 3rd, which is the first primary featuring Texas, which we've talked a lot about, and then going forward in 2026 is going to get super interesting. So thanks everyone for listening. Again, catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Tube. But thanks everyone, and have a great year.